I've been thinking a bit about this for a while now, and then ever since Trump put out his executive order banning diversity training or critical race theory based training in government agencies and now also for contractors. I've been thinking about this, and I was just, like I said, I've been thinking about this more, and I've been thinking about what I want to talk about here for a while now. And I think the reason I'm doing this is an article I read in the week by Kathy Young. Now, I respect Kathy quite a bit. I respect her opinion. I like a lot of what she does. And even in this article, I agree with a lot of the points she brings up. I just don't agree with the premise. And this is nothing personal against Kathy. If you might happen to hear this, Kathy, I don't agree with your premise. And I've seen this from a couple other people. I just think this is the wrong way to go about it. Um, Before I get started on all that, just whatever stupid disclaimers. I'm in Canada, so I can't even vote in this election. Canadian, not American citizen. But if I was in the States right now, if I was able to vote on this, I think I'd vote down ticket. I don't think I could give my support to either party. I don't think either party is worth the vote. You know, I'm not going to know who's better, who's worse, whatever. But I don't want someone who's slightly better than awful. I don't think that deserves my vote. And also that being said, I think Trump is an unmitigated disaster. Uh, you know, normal conditions, I wouldn't have voted for him last time, and I think I would have done the same thing, voted down ticket. Certainly, there's no way I could see myself casting my vote for him. So just get that out of the way. But anyways, like I said, I was spurred to do this because of Kathy's article, and I'm just gonna. I'll start with what I think she got right. Kathy walks through woke ideology, like some of the critical race theory stuff, and she lays it out fairly well, and she explains what it is and what's wrong with it. She talks about how it's being a dogma. She talks about how it's spread through the academy, through schools, media. It's ubiquitous everywhere now. And then she also does mention one good thing I do like about what Trump did was the executive order getting it out of government training. I, you know, I'm still leery of it, but I think it's really good to have the attention to it. And no, it should not be in government. It should not be anywhere near forming any kind of policy. And yeah, I'm glad he did it. I'm glad he brought the attention to it. Another thing that she brings up that's a really good point is, orange man bad. And I don't mean that Kathy said that, but like that attitude, that thinking. So if Trump is opposed to critical race theory must be good. That's a problem, and unfortunately, that's where we are at right now. I think if Trump said the sun's going to set in the west, um, Pelosi's going to go take a look to make sure. And you know, far fetched or whatever, but MSNBC might just start doing something stupid like saying how Trump is avoiding the science because it's not really the sun setting, but it's the Earth spinning on its axis. So it's the Earth moving, not the sun. Blah blah blah. And Trump doesn't know science. I just wouldn't put it past them at this point. But that's where we're at. Anyway, like I said, I think all of this is correct. And what I'm disagreeing with is like I said, the premise, and that is that Trump will radicalize the left. But before I get to that, a couple other things that I think she doesn't. I don't even want to get wrong, but I think she's underestimating or overestimating Biden's pushback on this. And I don't think either Trump or Biden knows what the hell this stuff is. They have no clue. But also, I don't think Biden has the wherewithal to push back against it within his own party. And people can say, "Oh, well, in the debate, he's not against this, that," but just a couple of things. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, Elizabeth Warren was going on about how we need more anti-racism, how racism is a public health hazard, and things like that. So Warren's drinking the Kool-Aid. Harris is talking about being more intersectional. So like I said, I don't see Biden having the wherewithal to push back against some of that. Then there's this whole squad. I mean, they're woke as all hell. And then the Democratic Socialists, you have them. Also, on top of that, I mean, you have Kendi. Ibram Kendi. So he was being interviewed with The Atlantic about a week ago. So I think it was like on the 24th, 25th of September. And I mean, he's saying it straight out, and this is all in the literature. This is all in the scholarship. The whole system is racist. So that even if Trump loses and Biden gets in, you cannot let up, and you have to be vigilant. The work is never done. Racism is a permanent thing, and they have to be vigilant. So I don't see the woke going away. I don't see it coming down at all. And I think the slightest thing that happens with Biden if Biden gets in, I do think Biden will be elected. And the smallest thing that happens, Biden getting in, they're going to say, "See, we told you the whole system's racist. It doesn't matter who's in, the system's going to go." And so there's that. And again, I don't think Biden has a clue what this is, and I don't think Biden will fight back against it. And as I was saying, I don't think this whole thing of Trump is going to radicalize the left even more. No, it's not. The left radicalized itself, and I'll get into that in a bit. But I mean, as soon as he got elected, you had the primal scream sessions. Right away, it's America's a racist country, and no, it's utterly ludicrous. And even if Biden gets in this time, they're not going to let that up. And I think it's too far spread. And like I said, I think the left has radicalized itself. And if you're saying, well, Trump getting in again is going to radicalize the left, well, guess what? Biden getting in is going to radicalize the right. The right is already radicalized. That radicalization is due to the woke. And again, like I said, I'll get to that. Like I said, I think this is part of the left radicalizing itself. And as a counter to that, there's the radicalization on the right. So a couple of things on this, and obviously I don't. This is Kathy here listening to this. I'm not saying you're ignorant of this at all. Probably know more than I do. But anyways, the long march through the institutions. So you have that going. They wanted to take over all cultural production, all the institutions, education, entertainment, media. Because discourse is power. They wanted to control the narrative. They wanted to control the means of discourse. And that they did that through the education. And, where you can say it goes back to the 60s, but I think the main thrust of it started in the 80s. A link to a thread from this account on Twitter named Local Distance. And it does a very good job of how this came into the education system. The current iteration of what we're seeing of intersectionality and critical race theory, that was in the colleges in the 90s, that was being taught. I think critical race theory, obviously, the Derek Bell in the 70s, but with the mixture of the intersectionality and the postmodernism coming together in the 90s, it was in some high schools in some parts of the U.S. around 2010. It was in middle schools around 2015. It was also in some middle schools in parts of Canada about 2015. It got into K through 12 in parts of the U.S. around 2017. And it became a little bit more widespread in 2018. And even in Canada, it came up here in around 2018, K through 12, as part of the curriculum. And then when I'm talking, And this stuff should not be in school. And the same part of this is, again, part of what Trump did recently. And uh, he wants to have a patriotic based curriculum. I don't want that. It's like, it sounds jingoistic. It's not. I don't want kids to be indoctrinated. Um, it's like this stuff. They say it straight out. They want to have activist scholars. They want to teach kids to be activists, not activists first, then it's education. So they're teaching them activism, and this is starting in kindergarten. Some places starting in pre-K. I mean, Kendi, yes, anti-racist baby. Then there's a link to a curriculum from, I think it's Montgomery County in Maryland, their curriculum for the public schools. And they say that we want to make the kids change agents. And it's all over. It's getting ubiquitous, especially this year now. It's going in all the curriculum. Another thing of this, of how it's gotten into schools, and especially that thread by Local Distance, and there's another thread I'll link to by Gregory Kionov about this idea of repressive tolerance. This was in the colleges of education, so this was in the pedagogy. So this is in teaching teachers how to teach. So this is slowly building up. Like I said, they call it the long march. It was the long game. And so this idea of repressive tolerance was an idea that not only did you need to give marginalized people a voice, you needed to censor anything that might cause them harm. And this is a really bad way of looking at it, and it's infected everything. So, like, with that, again, so this scholarship came through. This was infecting other humanities and arts degrees, and then it affected journalism. Whatever, I'm not yelling fake news. Whatever, there are good journalists out there. There's good work still being done in a lot of places, but the institution is corrupt. It's gone. I almost want to. I don't want to say it, but I have a feeling that we're losing the fourth estate. But I don't know. I'm going to link to an article from Tablet Magazine. It was done by Zach Goldberg, and I believe it was part of his PhD dissertation. And this was about how the media is fueling racial divide. And again, these people are using woke terminology, they're using woke ideas, and they're pushing this. I'll also link to another thread by Jonathan Miller, and it's basically showing the same kind of things, how the media is spinning this racialization. And like, on that, they both start around 2000. They go up until this year, and actually, Jonathan Miller's thread ends last year in 2019. So it's just showing, and then I mean, you can look at it. I look at it in comparison to Islam in one way. Starting with 9/11, you had the push that America is racist because of Islamophobia. About 6 months after 9/11, you started having things about how patriotism was dog whistling for racism. And you made being patriotic, the press made being patriotic racist, and the whole Islamophobia thing. And then you had Obama come in. And again, I'm not blaming the presidents, I'm just listing off a timeline. You had Obama come in, and right away in 2009, the Tea Party start. There's more of these people, there's more woke people in the press in 2008 than there was in 2000. More of these people have filtered through into the civil service, going back into the school administrations, pushing this stuff through, and it's being taught to kids. And the press is, all during the Obama years, in places that turned to Trump in the Rust Belt, in the Midwest, places like Wisconsin and Michigan, by small margins. Those places, they they voted for Obama twice. They were losing jobs. They were losing industry. They were being told through the press they were privileged. They were being told that they were racist. They were being told that if they disagree with, if they wanted stronger borders, they were told they were racist. They were told all these things. And yeah, they voted Trump. Um, some of them did anyways. Like I said, it was a small margin. The press has been fueling this. Now, if you're in schools and you're teaching kids that white people have oppressed everyone, if you're not white, you've been oppressed, that's going to affect people. That's going to, you're getting everyone to be hyper focused on race, and you're surprised that white supremacy is going up. I mean, it's ludicrous. It's, again, it equates to Islam. Like, you go back and it's just, oh, we have to say Islam is a religion of peace. And like Obama saying that when the journalist got killed or burned, was it the pilot? I can't remember. It said that it was by ISIS. It was burned by ISIS. And they said that this has less to do with Islam than with any other faith. And come on, you're burying your heads in the sand. And you're doing it again. You're like, okay, we'll fight ISIS because ISIS is radical. But the ideology is still there. I mean, ISIS is quote unquote defeated, but it's spread through Africa. I mean, wherever the wars and everything there, complete disaster. Like, look at, but the ideology is still there and it's still spreading. Look at South Asia is completely, drenched with this. Malaysia is not much better. Parts of the Philippines, like Aceh province, where Islam is in there, it's getting stronger. There's more of this going through, and we got to take on the white supremacy. Well, what's causing it? And this is not the same as saying that Trump's going to get the woke to be more pissed off, or Biden's going to radicalize the right, or whatever. You're teaching in school to kids who's oppressed, who has power, who doesn't, who's, if you take a look at the 1619 Project, that America is a wholly racist place. And again, through the press, you're keep pushing this idea of black men dying every day by the hands of the police, how the state is racist, how everything is racist. Article after article about, black people going for a hike is dangerous and how they feel threatened. And then I'll link to one that I just found so egregious. It was 4 black girls. This was in a field trip to Brooklyn, somewhere. 4 black girls were beaten up by 2 South Asian boys. And the New York Times op-ed said that was due to whiteness. So people reading this are getting pissed off. And I don't blame them. And, you're getting them to focus on race. You're going to go online, you're going to find stuff, you're going to look at it. And you're creating, all this is creating kids who feel marginalized, kids who feel aggrieved, kids who feel attacked. And that's what extremists look for. If you go back to the recruiting of the gangs in the 80s, and then the white supremacists that came out as reaction to that, that's what they were looking for. They were looking for the disenfranchised kids. You're teaching this to kids now. You're teaching them to be disenfranchised. And again, you're surprised that white supremacy is going up. And it's only going to get worse. Again, like I said, this is not a simple thing. And it's so, like, this whole thing of Trump radicalizing the left, I get it. I think that's a ludicrous idea. I'll still get to that. But again, I want to stick with Islam for a little bit. The same smears that I saw on foreign Muslims and ex-Muslims and anyone who was speaking out about Islam at the very start, right after 9/11. And it just kept going. I mean, I can list off names, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Majid Nawaz, Mariam Namazi, Sarah Hayter, Muhammad Sayyid. Just horrible attacks. My friend Yasmin Muhammad, just horrible attacks. And you see the same kind of attacks on, you know, black people who are speaking out against this woke stuff. And they're being told they're not really black. Like, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, you ain't black. You know, Kanye puts on a MAGA hat, he ain't black no more. Um, it's ridiculous, like these ideas of being politically black, stuff like that. Again, this is just woke itself is causing all these problems. We used to have a lid on all the other crazy. It was easy to deal with because it was small. For the last 20 years, woke has been growing. It's been getting more and more widespread. It's in the institutions. Like, the press supports it. It's not an outsider thing. And it needs pushback. And unfortunately, it's getting everywhere. And all the other crazy that we used to be able to keep a lid on, we can't anymore. So I think we have to deal with it. And just on that, like, if you're a single, if woke is your single issue and that's what you're voting on, or white supremacy or whatever, I, again, I'd say vote down ticket. I don't think either Biden or Trump, GOP or the Dems have it in them to actually take this on. I would vote down ticket. I would focus, if you're going to focus the time you have to spend on political issues, I would spend at least half of it on local. Then out of the other half, spend like, you know, spend 50% on local, then 30% on state, maybe 20% on federal. If you want to spend, you know, look at your representatives, then if you're going to look at federally, but you have to look at it locally. I mean, Biden or Trump could say, okay, we're going to do, you know, I don't think Trump has a right to do anything on local education, but, you know, go to your school boards. Like I said, I mentioned Montgomery County in Maryland, but like New York City is horrible. Seattle's horrible. California is going to be really bad. Actually, that's one good thing there. They're taking intersectionality out of it, or not going to put it into the curriculum. But Texas, even, um, like, it's all over the states. So vote local. Focus on things locally because you can make a lot more effective change there. I'll link to an article by a woman in Canada, Lisa Bildy, who took on the Law Society of Ontario, and they were bringing in all this diversity and stuff. And just went to the meetings. She said there was about 6 people who pushed for it, and there's no one else there really. So she got a bunch of her friends. Like, it's like, you just go to these meetings. It's not a lot of people there, or I guess now it's on online meetings or whatever. But just get a bunch of your friends, and show, and just go there and vote it down. You have to pay attention to what's going on, and unfortunately, you're going to have to read up and check what this stuff is. And like I said, again, you know, all due respect to Kathy, I think her whole premise that putting Trump in is going to radicalize the left even more is wrong. The left is radicalized. They did it themselves. They are fueling racial divisions at a rate I haven't seen in a long time. Um, Frankly, I get more racial abuse from, you know, the progressive left than I do from far right. And I'm not saying that there isn't anything on the far right. Like, there's a lot of extremism going on, and the U.S. is armed to the teeth. Like, it's not a good mixture. This radicalization, everything, it's just not good. Anyways, that's me rambling. Thanks for listening.